Good morning. It is time for Lisa's Changing Perceptions with your host, Lisa Efflandt. Lisa, good morning. And today we're talking about body syndrome. But before we get into body syndromes or whatever kind of synth you want to put in there, why don't you tell us how everybody can find you? Let's do a little bit of housekeeping first.
I'm Lisa. I'm with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a self-empowerment coach. I have a diploma in hypnotherapy, as well as I am a certified neurolinguistic programming practitioner. We work to improve people's lives, improve their state of perception. You can reach me at 262-573-7055. You can also reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com. You can reach me at lisaschangingperceptions@gmail. You can also find me on Facebook, or of course, always through 216thenet.com. To reach me. I'm also an intuitive medium, and I do deal with other topics such as past life regressions and all the interesting woo-woo, which we'll have a show about sometime very soon. I'll bring in a guest or two. So there you go. And do we have a sponsor?
We do have a sponsor. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is brought to you in part by Bremer Team, Keller Williams Success Realty, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. They bring people home. And there we are. Good morning. All the housekeeping is done.
All right. Good morning. How is everybody this morning?
We're freaking awesome. like so freaking awesome. At least I am.
I'm glad you're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So I decided to do body syndromes today because the conversation about autoimmune disease last week seemed to trigger some question and thought processes. So I figured we'd talk a little bit more about different types of body syndromes. And in truth, when I kind of talk about it, as I talk about it, people realize it makes sense. It's how our body works. So I'm going to talk about some of these, and I'm going to say, if you have a closed mind, that's fine. But having a closed mind, listen to the show probably bores you then, or it makes you agitated. Have an open mind and remember a few things. When people say, well, what I think doesn't really affect my health. Okay. So I always prerequisite this conversation, and then I argue and debate this with, when you sleep, does your blood flow? When you sleep, do your lungs breathe? When you sleep, do your organs function? When you sleep, does your heart beat? Why does it do that? Because your brain is connected to your body, telling it to do it. It's homeostasis. It is your brain and your body working together to function. So if that's, as people want to say, scientific fact, isn't it possible that the way we think can affect our body, since we think with the same brain that is teaching our body to function? So if our brain is thinking or doing something that is off of what it feels it should be, or we're telling it something, wouldn't it also, at least enough to open the box, open the window of possibility, be enough to affect the body's response to that? So last week we talked about autoimmune disease. And autoimmune disease is a disease that, well, there's a list of diseases that are considered autoimmune, but autoimmune diseases, what they are is it's a point or an area of your body that has decided to be attacked or is getting attacked by your cells. Your own body is rejecting yourself. It's attacking its own system as foreign. So we talked about that, and people with autoimmune disease, my challenge to them to consider is, are you being your authentic self? Are you truly following your own passions, your own hearts, your own beliefs? Or are you overly people-pleasing? Are you having to put on a fake facade for the world that is truly not genuine to you? Are you living a life that you truly don't want to live and just feeling like you have no choice? Are you not feeling yourself each day? Are you not waking up and knowing who you are and heading forward? And yes, sometimes we all have a bad day. That's a normal state. I'm talking about the true life experience, the way we see our lives, the way we see ourselves. Are we living genuinely to self and what makes us happy? Because if we're not, and we're putting on a fake facade, we're putting on a fake face, we're doing a job we hate, whatever it is for each individual person, would it not be true that the person that you're expressing is foreign to the spirit of who you are? Just like autoimmune disease is your own cells attacking yourself as foreign.
Yeah.
Just a challenge, just a thought. And we could get into great details. I couldn't log in because I won't tell you I have everything memorized. I do not. But I couldn't get logged in to pull up my document for some reason this morning that gives me all the details. So I'm going to go by memory. I know enough, I think, to do the show by memory to get the point across. And with autoimmune diseases, then you can then choose or look at the particular area of your body that the autoimmune disease is attacking. I know people who have Hashimoto's, which is and it attacks the thyroid. That's an autoimmune disease that attacks the thyroid. I know somebody else actually recently that triggered the conversation on last week's show who has an autoimmune disease that's affecting their hands and making their hands not be able to function. And they've developed a syndrome of a type of arthritis that's causing that. It's causing a swelling. And the interesting part about that is it's somebody who paints. So they're struggling to follow their passion now. Their bodies attack that as foreign, having to do that. And there's different areas of the body and different sides of the body that when you know somebody's having discomfort, you can actually kind of determine and break it down. And this takes long conversations. So this is very general, but we can figure it out when we get into details with it with a client. When something is legitimately on the right-hand side only, the right-hand side of your body only, we would identify that, but then we would start looking for paternal issues or paternal wounds because your right side reflects your paternal relationship. Left side, let's be logical, is the maternal side or the maternal relationship. And I've seen it be extremes. I just had somebody recently that came in and they had been concerned about some weight gain. And they didn't know about the body syndromes. They were new to me and we had never discussed it before. And she said, it's really weird because my right side gained more weight than my left side. Her stomach was literally like bigger on one side and she doesn't have a growth. She's been to the doctor. She's fine. But the weight was manifesting on the right side more than on the left side. And it was interesting because what happens is that our core, so our neck to our pelvis, that's our core. And your core is your life source. In general, that's your life source. Okay. Because you could survive if you lost a limb. That's survivable. But if your core gets removed, I don't mean surgically, I'm talking about injury, trauma, your core gets damaged to where your core doesn't function, you don't survive.
Right.
So the interesting part is that it was a manifestation of more weight on the right-hand side, which is paternal, and it was all in the abdominal and pelvic area. And in conversation, I was smiling while she was talking to me, and she finally stopped because she's really funny. And she said, why are you laughing at my fat? And I'm not. I'm listening to you and finding all the interest in it. Because something that was a struggle that we were dealing with wounds was that her father had been a very incredibly loving father, almost to the point of she didn't know how to survive not being treated that way. So when her father passed and now she's an adult, she struggles in relationships because her perception of how a man treats you is kind of fairy tale-ish. He didn't let her see the struggles or the angers or anything like that. She only saw the worship. And with him being passed and her at the age she was and the relationship she was struggling in, her paternal side was gaining weight in her life source area, near her abdomen and pelvis. Your abdomen and pelvis, that's your reproductive system, right? That's your reproductive system, especially for women. You know, you've got your entire reproduction system there. So your reproductive system represents what? Relationships, reproduction, maternal, right? Your instincts. So she was gaining weight on her right side around her pelvic area, which would mean, and that's her life source. So her father, who she saw as her life source and gave her example of what life was to be in relationships, now going down to the pelvic area, was gone, and she was struggling and feeling unsafe. So there's a padded layer beginning to form of protection. And it's how the body responds. People who gain belly weight in general and front belly weight, that's not area specific, there's a threat to the life source in some way, shape, or form that they're feeling that they need to protect. And it's not, and people say, well, why would they do that? Let's get the real out there. It's not conscious. It's your body's response to how you feel. And there's something threatening with the life source or the view of life. Like I always joke on the air about my cat sag. Mine's really low, and that's why I put on weight, and I can't get rid of it. Years. It just doesn't happen. And I actually, the only thing I really have wrong besides my allergies is I have what's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so my weight gain is all around my reproductive system, my lower stomach, the only thing that my body, knock on wood, 53, I'm healthy, has affected is my ovaries, and my relationships and traumas and my view of that because of the rape at a young age and my view of safety and sex and all those things was affected so young that my body responds to those triggers, those fears, those wounds. It's how your body acts to it. So people who have chronic neck problems, let's use that as an example, because that's a pretty common one. And if there's any questions that come up, they can feel free. Because this isn't one I have to stay like in the zone.
Okay.
The neck, chronic neck issues, chronic neck pain. What do you use your neck for? You use your neck to turn your head, right? That's what our neck's purpose is, to turn our head. And why do we turn our head? We turn our head to look into another direction to see where to go for the most part, right? That would be the purpose. So people who have chronic neck issues or chronic stiffness in their neck, the question would be, what things are you struggling in which direction to take? Where are you struggling to take a new direction, or where are you struggling to see something differently? Because you're unable to turn your neck because your neck is used to turn your head, which will divert your eyes to see something differently, see a new direction, see a new view, right? Those are all the things we do with our eyes. And so when our neck is stiff and it's not willing to turn or it's painful to turn, what is difficult for you to see differently? What is difficult for you to get a new perception of? What is difficult for you to look at in your life? Because it's then affecting that neck. It doesn't want to turn. It doesn't want to carry. Shoulders. What are you carrying? What weight in life or the world are you carrying that is too much for you? You've taken on too much. Think of that as like sandbags on your shoulders. The burdens are the sandbags on your shoulders. And what would happen? Your shoulders would start to slouch. You'd start to lean forward a little bit. You'd get shoulder pain, shoulder discomfort, carrying that load, carrying what your burdens are. What am I carrying that's too much for me? What of the burdens that I carry do I need to rid myself of? And this is very general. We get into details in the office and we really kind of get into the nitty gritty, but I just want to give people kind of food for thought, little seeds planted to think about their health and their wellness. Let's go into hands. What do we do with our hands? We grasp, we work, right? We touch. So depending on what the hands are doing. So for example, the hands that were too swollen to hold anything. What are you struggling with to grasp? Or what are you grasping on so tightly to that you really need to let go of? What do you feel you're afraid to let go of? Because if we're holding on for dear life, so to speak, and our mental emotional feels that this is a life issue, if we're holding on for dear life to a rope, what happens? Our hands begin to hurt, right? And if we hold it for a real long time, if you've ever been working on something, you've had to hold something real tight for a long time, when you're done with that project and you go to let go, it's really difficult to unclench your fingers at first. You have to really kind of push them and pull your hands apart if you've been doing that real tight for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you've been grasping onto something for a very long time that you're afraid to lose or you're afraid to let go of, your hands are going to struggle to open again. The same way if you're holding something physical for a long time so tightly.
Okay.
Legs. What do we use our legs for? To walk. Why do we walk? To get somewhere, right? To move forward. When we have leg issues in general, we're going to go to the general leg. What am I struggling with moving forward? What's painful in moving forward from where I am now? What's difficult in where I'm moving forward to where I am now? Break it down to knee. What's our knee for? Our knee is to flex, right? Our knee is to make the walk forward easier. Our knee is to be able to flex and move more freely as we walk. What are you inflexible with in your life that's causing you difficulty to move forward? What do you, if your knee is locking, what do you feel locked into that you can't get out of and move forward? What do you fear leaving? What are you locked into and committed to? The brace of the knee, the breaking of the knee, the tears of the knee. What are you being so inflexible with in your life as you're moving forward that you're tearing those things, fighting those tendons, fighting those muscles to be flexible? What are you being so inflexible with, or what you fear being flexible with as you walk forward in your life? What are you inflexible about? Because as you walk forward in life and you're inflexible, the part of your body that is flex is tearing. So we're having to fight that. We're having to battle that. What is it that's causing that to come forward? Your feet. Okay. What do feet do? They stand. They hold us grounded. They keep us in balance as we walk forward in life. Feet issues. What am I struggling with to be grounded and balanced in life? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? Or again, the opposite. There's always the universal balance. Or the opposite is, what am I have my feet locked in the sand? You know that term? I have my feet locked in the sand, meaning you won't budge, you won't move, you're inflexible. I have my feet locked in the sand on this topic. What is that? Because if your feet were locked in the sand, think about what that would feel. You have your feet stuck in the sand, literally, right? And sand is hot and it's uncomfortable and it's very hard to pull out of. What is your feet locked in the sand about? A lot of these terms and these things that we use actually have a truth and a meaning, a truth and a meaning behind them. So with feet, we can go there. What are we locked in the sand about? Toes. What do toes do? Toes balance you when you walk. You need your toes. And people who don't have toes learn how to walk, but they have to learn how to all over again because that balance is off. Your toes have a balance and they help to keep you upright and on balance as you go. So toe issues, where am I feeling off balance? Where do I feel that as I move forward and as I walk forward, I'm going to stumble? Where am I afraid that I'm going to fall? Where am I feeling lost? Where is that struggle coming from? Another way to look at that, just if you kind of look at the body and what its purpose is in the physical form, and then be open-minded enough to relate it to the mental, emotional, a lot of it just really makes sense. You put it together. Your arms. People who have struggles with their upper arms. What do we use our upper arms for? We use them for strength, for lifting. We use them for strength, for lifting ourselves up, right? When we get up out of the bed, when we get up out of the chair, we use the arms as strength to lift ourselves up. What am I struggling with to lift myself up in life? What did I feel I had to work so hard for that I tore something? or that there's pain. Kind of depends on what is it. Did you tear a muscle? Is there pain? Is there, what is it? Are you not able to move your shoulders with your arms? But your upper arms, you use that to lift yourself up. What do we also do with our arms? We embrace. So if we're having issues with our arms and they're not rising up to reach out, you can't lift the shoulders and the arms aren't working together to lift and reach forward. Do you struggle with intimate embrace? Do you struggle with hug? Do you struggle with touch? Do you struggle with human connection? Because your arms are meant to help you through life, but to also embrace the physical embrace. So what are you struggling to either embrace in your life, or do you struggle with human embrace and human connection?
What if you just don't like touching on people?
Well, Pete, I've told you, we need to be in the office with you a few weeks.
No, we don't.
And we could talk about that.
I don't want to peel my onion layers back. Thank you very much.
Your onion's just fine?
Yeah, my onion's just fine the way it is right now. So, no, I'm being facetious.
I know, but Pete really is not a toucher. So that's why I was looking at him as I was saying it. Like, what's Pete going to do when I talk about embracing in arms?
Yeah, no, it was making my skin crawl, actually. There's a tiny, tiny handful of people that I do not mind or that I enjoy embracing. And that's it. My embracing sphere, as people call it, is very, very small.
But that's actually okay because you allow embrace. You're just very particular with your energy. That's different than people who fear or are so uncomfortable and they can't be touched and they can't touch another. Or sometimes it's a rejection issue that they don't allow the vulnerability of a true embrace. Because, there's those hugs you give that are the polite, hey, how are you? Kind of hug.
I don't do those.
And then there's the real hug that with somebody that means something to you in whatever level of relationship. And you hug them and you feel your heart hug them.
Yeah.
That's a vulnerable embrace. So that's usually where you're going to find struggle. And you brought it up. So here you go. You're getting thrown under the bus.
That's fine.
People who struggle to embrace anyone may have had a rejectional issue at some point where they allowed themselves to be vulnerable, were rejected, and now they've decided they don't want to feel that again. So they tend to not touch or hug because they were let down at some point by somebody they felt the embrace of, or they wanted to embrace or needed embrace from, or they offered embrace to, and they did not receive back the same emotional level that they had expectation of. So that kind of said, okay, I'm not going to do this because, why are you rolling your eyes, Pete? They can't see you. I can.
There's a reason they can't see me because I'm sitting in the producer chair. This is the Lisa's Changing Perceptions show, not the Pete rolls his eyes show. I'm rolling my eyes because you're not wrong.
Yeah. But we were just talking about that last week because it was before the show. I don't even remember what it was now. And Pete said, no, we're not triggering me right before we go on the air.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, it comes from, to me, a hug and body contact is extremely intimate. It just is. And yeah, I can feel other people's energy when they're simply in a room with me. And I most often, I don't care for that. And also, I spent many, many, many years in HR, and you simply don't touch. It's a career life wherein it's a no touching career life. It's
right.
It's off. You don't do it. That's just simply the rule. And so that's a part of where my mind has been for 30 years anyway. But yeah, I reserve hugs and physical contact only for people with whom I am in a direct relationship with. By the way, Denise Maple, wonderful segue, Denise. Thank you so much. Simply says good morning. Let's get her off of. Thank you for getting everybody off the Pete topic here. There
Denise
you go.
Has been on the air before. She has a spiritual counseling service that she's starting. She was on the air. It's been a while, a couple months. Yeah, she's recently moved up to the area, though, and is welcome to come back on the show with me at some point and talk about the woo-woo. And we could also, let people know what she does.
You may want to clarify what the woo-woo is so as not to just
the whole spiritual
running.
Angels, bigger picture, universal. And Denise, actually, I like having Denise on the air because we have very similar perceptions of that. but she's very soft and sweet and gentle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, me. So it's kind of nice to have the difference to see people with totally kind of different dynamics have a similar perception of things. And there's things we don't agree on, things we do agree on, but it's kind of fun to have her on because we're just very opposite, but the same.
And Denise says, "Thank you!" Exclamation point. I would love to do that.
Oh yeah,
So
girl. Get down here.
Very cool.
Yeah, she used to live pretty far away. Now she's within an hour, so she could get her hiney down here and be on the show with me again.
Yeah, there you go.
Or she could go remote. I would go on the Jumbotron for you, Denise. It caused me trauma. See, Denise is beautiful.
Now you're rolling your eyes. So
yeah, because Denise is stunning. So being on the Jumbotron for her is no big deal. Denise is beautiful. But yeah, she's welcome and it's fine. Now I got to figure out where I was. Oh,
we were talking about the
embrace.
Physical
we were talking about
and,
Pete's lack of ability to embrace.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we're getting back on. So, yeah.
Come on, Pete. Okay, eyes. So our eyesight starts to deteriorate. What do our eyes do? They see the world. They have filters that determine what we feel, right? Because if we see something happening, we make an instant decision about it or a judgment about it. I love people who say, I never judge. You do too. Everybody judges every minute of every day. You can judge that you don't feel it's bad, or you can judge that you don't care, but you make a judgment about it. You make a decision, a judgment about it. Society has told us that judgment means it's only a negative thing. It's really not true. A judgment's a decision.
Yeah.
If you're judgmental, then maybe you're judging other people's decisions, and maybe you're doing it in a negative ass way. But we make judgments every second of every day, looking around. Do I care about this? Don't I care about this? And in order to determine if you do or don't care about it, you have to make a judgment of what value it has. So you're judging every second of every day. So anybody who says I never judge, yeah, you do. The minute you open up your eyes. You judge whether it's going to be a good day, a bad day, if you feel good like getting out of bed right away, or if you really want to go back to sleep. You judge how you're feeling about how the day is going to start. You make judgments every second of every day. So step out and look at the truth. So your eyes judge, right? They look through the filter. They decide. Are you nearsighted? Are you farsighted? What's the problem with the eyes? Again, those are all going to be a little bit different. So I'll use me as an example. I'll throw me under the bus, Pete, since I kind of, you don't want to have the tire marks alone.
No, that's good. I won't feel so alone there under the bus.
So I wear my granny readers. Now, partially, I'm getting older. I'm 53. I'm getting older, so I wear my granny readers. But also, if you look at the way I see the world, the way I see life, I struggle sometimes with looking at what's right in front of me. I'm a big picture person, so I can look out and not get anxiety about the future. I see the big picture of things. I am a visionary. I'm a Pisces, so I'm very imaginative. I'm very flowy. Excuse me. I can look out and see the big picture of the world. But between the empath and what I do for a living and my own personal life experiences, sometimes I have struggle being in the moment, and that causes me anxiety. And sometimes I don't want to see what's really here right in front of me that I have to deal with. I always find a way, hence I throw on my readers. Okay. But seeing a short distance right in front of me sometimes is blurry. I struggle to see what's right there in front of me that I have to deal with. Far out vision, what is that? That's farsighted, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I always get them backwards, but okay. So farsighted. Are you struggling to see the future? Are you struggling to see a purpose in the future? Are you struggling to see where your dream or your passion might ever come true? What are you struggling with that you can't see so far out? Are you afraid to look in the future? Are you afraid there isn't a future? What are you struggling with that's so far out in front of you that it's causing a blur? Our eyes see. Our eyes see through a filter. So those are your eyes. Ears, same thing. Hearing loss, ear infections. Chronic ear infections, let's use that one. What are you hearing either from your own unconscious mind or from the company that you keep that doesn't fit, that doesn't work, that's foreign, and that is so triggering you that it's infective? It's a bacteria. See what I'm saying? It's causing an infection. It's causing a foreign matter. It's causing pain to hear what you're hearing, whether they're talking about you or your life or whatever. What are you hearing on a regular basis that's causing pain and discomfort that your ears are rejecting to the point of an infection? Go ahead.
Well, right at the bottom of the hour, we need to let you know that you're hearing Lisa's Changing Perceptions, brought to you in part by Bremer Team, Keller Williams Success Realty, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is right here on 216 The Net Real Life Internet Radio every Sunday at 9 a.m. How was that for a segue?
That was amazing, Pete.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was.
Somebody just told me yesterday, we were talking about you, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
And somebody just told me yesterday, Pete has the perfect radio voice. So
Well,
you get that compliment often.
Thank you.
That you have the perfect radio voice. People enjoy hearing you on the show, and they like our camaraderie.
Well, yeah, it's nice.
As I tell, yeah, look, that was well spoken there, Pete. That really just, took the compliment that people give you and really showed it. The truth right there.
Well, thank you this is your show. It's not the Pete show, the Pete Talks radio voice show. This is your show.
That's okay. This is
So,
a flowy topic today.
And we were just giving, your show sponsor the props at the bottom of the hour. So there you go. Sorry if I threw you off. But okay. Ears. And we're thankful that all the people who listen to your show have the ears to do that with.
Wow, Pete, what a save.
Hey, yeah.
What a save.
I'm all about the save right now. So
So what do we get? Oh, you know what? I'll throw me under the bus again. Respiratory, breathing. I have asthma. And interesting enough is that I never had even hay fever until I hit 40. And when I hit 40, the so-called gift, the mediumship, the intuition, the empathy, empath, all of that thing was blooming quickly and immensely. And it was very rejected. At first, people had thought, I'm crazy, and that's all right. Some of them still do, and that's good. It gives them something to talk about. But at the time, I was struggling with what was happening, and as excited as I was about things that I was learning and reading and what have you, there was a part of me that there were certain people I was around that I couldn't discuss it because I knew that they thought I was crazy, and I was still intimidated by that factor back then. That's kind of gone now, but still intimidated. And I developed asthma. Well, what is asthma? Asthma is taking in something foreign. And it's also the inability to take in breath, the inability to breathe, right?
Yeah, that is asthma as well.
But that's not related to that. It makes it worse, but that doesn't cause it. She's bringing it. Pete's wife is here, and she just put up smoking because I smoke. And just for the record, that aggravates my asthma, but it did not cause my asthma.
So, and by the way, Eric says, good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Eric. So with asthma, it's your inability to take in a full breath or your inability to exhale easily. So if you think about it, when you're in an area that you can't say something, or, when somebody says something and as much as you want to say something, you can't. So you bite your tongue, so to speak. What's the first thing your body actually does if you think about it? You gasp, you go, and hold your breath. So sometimes. The inability to speak, the inability to say your truth, the inability to let out the inability to talk about it, the inability to speak the truth from you, the inability to talk about your truth, those types of things will affect your breathing because your brain says when we can't say something, we hold our breath. And that's your brain's first response. And pay attention. If you guys think I'm crazy, this is funny. Pay attention the next time somebody says something and you want to say something back, but you don't. You can't say it because it'll cause, maybe a big can of worms to open. The immediate first thing, unconsciously, you don't have to tell yourself, hold your breath. Unconsciously, you'll go and hold your breath. Because your words need to be held in, and you know that you don't want to put them forward because it's going to cause whatever issue. So when you're chronically not speaking your truth, you're chronically not speaking your heart, you're chronically not speaking your passion, Your body's learning that it's difficult to breathe because unconsciously you hold your breath when you don't speak. Does that make sense? We're understanding?
Yeah. Okay.
It's just for everybody. If I'm looking strangely over, I am not used to Pete's wife being here too.
She's learning. She's learning the production.
And we have a
desk.
little bit of a rapport. So she is like me and she speaks with her face. So as I'm talking or saying something, her facial expressions, and I'm responding to her facial expressions because she speaks with her face.
She does very much. We do actually have a statement from Eric, which maybe you can talk to him about a
Certainly.
little bit. He says, I'm really wrestling internally with, in quotes, being authentically me.
What would happen if you were authentically you? Does he want to call in? Eric, you want to call in?
He can call in, or he can actually join us, and I can put the link up there.
If he wants to, I'll talk to him.
Eric's comment does say Pete's wife is greater than Pete. So he used the greater than sign there. But we'll actually put the invitation link up here on the screen and throw that in. And if Eric wants to join in, he's absolutely welcome, as is anybody else.
And Eric, I will not get to the point that it would be so interpersonal that you would not want it on the air.
And
I will back away if I think we're about to hit that.
But yeah, very much welcome. There's the link. Everybody can see that. If you're on Facebook and or YouTube, you can see the link there. Eric says he's thanking you, but call in next week for sure, he says. So maybe he wants to do a little introspection and thoughtful consideration.
Well, then that would be my question is what would happen if you were authentically you? That would be my first question.
So
what would happen if those are the ways. What happens is that our unconscious mind is 88% of our thinking process. And so when I say unconscious mind, it means that it's responsive. You don't have to tell it to do anything. The same way you don't have to tell your blood to flow. You don't have to tell your heart to beat. You don't have to tell your lungs to expand and contract. You don't have to tell your eyelids to open when you wake. It's homeostasis. Your body knows what to do. So the unconscious mind learned and just like when a baby's born, it doesn't walk. What does it do? It learns to walk. And then its brain figures out what walking is, and its brain figures out what balance is. And it figures out that when it starts to fall, it can balance itself on something. These are all learning things that we just did as development happen. So your unconscious mind absorbed all those things and said, this is what we do. So when we're in a state of discomfort, or when we're in a state of anxiety or pain or emotional pain, whatever it is, our unconscious mind says, what do we do to fix this? I don't want to feel this way. What do we do to fix this? And it's an unconscious effort. And it will retreat back to something that has worked in the past. Because that's what it learned. The same way when you were learning to walk as a baby or a toddler, when you were learning to walk, you learned that when you started to stumble, you grab something to balance yourself back up. You just learned it. Yes, go ahead.
Eric says he's wondering if most is emphasized there in all caps, people aren't authentically them. Still something I'm marinating in my mind. So he's really giving this a lot of thought. Perhaps
the biggest thing I see in the office is this, Eric, and this is something that big seed to plant. Most people are not authentically them, and they feel like they want to be. But if I were to ask them specific questions about who and what that was, they don't know.
Do you think a lot of people just don't spend time thinking about who really they are?
I believe that we live in a society, and I catch myself doing this sometimes too. I believe that we live in a world and a society now that is so based on standards that are so locked in that people never even think to do it. They just follow status quo. Status quo says you go to school and then you go to college or you get a job and then you get married and then you have kids. You know what I mean? There's a status quo. And people just follow along and they never really stop to think about the real passion of self. Like, what does this do for me? Where is this taking me? How do I feel about it? And it really a big question when people make major life choices that they don't ask themselves is, who am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? Because oftentimes we're doing it because we're looking at another person in our life, whether it be for approval, for relationship, for whatever. But to ask as a major, when you make a major life choice, who am I doing this for? Now, there will be times in life that we do something, because actually there was the show on Friday, I made the comment when they were talking about you have to make yourself happy first. I do agree with that to a certain extent. But I also believe that that's a quote that has just created selfish asses to have a justifiable reason for being a selfish ass. Because there are times we have to take other people and situations into consideration. You can't get married and have kids and build this life and what have you and do all these things. Then all of a sudden go, you know what? I'm not happy. Bye. That's not justifiable, because you have to make you happy first, because you've already made decisions that have affected other lives extremely. So there's an integrity mix that has to get mixed into that mixture. Yeah. You can say, you know what, I'm not happy in this life right now. What is it that I need to be happy? But you do still, when you bring children into the world and what have you, do still have some responsibilities there, to at least to a certain age or a certain level. You do. So that status quo, I don't necessarily agree with, because again, it's a long-winded understanding of things that got put into one sentence and gets grasped often. So your question can be, who am I doing this for? Sometimes we're going to do something for our friend, maybe something that causes us some stress or some turmoil, or maybe a little sacrifice. But we say, who am I doing this for? I'm doing it for them. But you know what? In a way, I'm doing it for me, because this person really helped me when I was there. And this feels good to be able to offer that back. So sometimes we'll do that in a marriage, or, you two are here today in a marriage or a relationship. Every now and then you guys have to compromise.
Yeah.
Right. And then who am I doing this for? Well, I am doing this for me because I love my spouse and I love my marriage. So even though I'm sacrificing, I am doing this for me. So just asking the question, who am I doing this for? Go ahead.
Well, Eric says, how do you think spirituality plays into being authentic?
It depends on your belief system, and it depends on what that little child in you learned as its unconscious mind was developing about spirituality. I mean, spirituality is a broad spectrum thing, and sadly it's become another, kind of status quo, throw a quick statement out there and call it spirituality type of thing. Some people are raised in religion that teaches fear. So if you can't be your authentic self because the man behind the pulpit or the book told you can't be, well, that would play a big factor. If you have fear to do that because you believe you're going to burn or whatever, they give a list. I've been told I've been burned so many times, I guess I'll sweat the weight off afterwards because I'm going to be burning all the time.
Well, there'll be a giant barbecue and we'll all be thrilled and happy, I suppose.
I had somebody ask me once that was it's very against my perspective. And they do believe that when I do mediumship that I'm talking to the devil. And I was fine with that. I was like, okay. And they said, I pray for you. And I said, oh, that's amazing, because more prayers, the better. So perfect. Thank you. And they said, what are you going to do if I'm right? And I said, well, I'm going to be grateful for the friends I met, because they're going to save me lemonade at the barbecue stand. That's exactly.
There you go.
Right. So, I mean, if you're brought up in a way that you have to fear being authentic if you don't follow the rules, then that could play a huge role. If you're brought up in a way or that you don't have a really locked in, kind of belief, and you decide to start discovering and figuring out and doing what you're doing, well, then that can play a huge role too, because you might find freedom in that. So, and anywhere in between, as we know, when it comes to religion or spirituality, there's an enormous spectrum. It's not a little here or there thing. There is no just black and white. The gray zone of that is enormous.
Eric's religion is pizza.
Is pizza.
Yeah. Hey,
you know what? My daughter would probably say the same thing. So that can play a factor. What do you believe in? What do you really feel? That's one of the arguments that I have with people because I don't condemn what anybody believes. I've said it on the air before. I ask clients what their belief system is when they come in, but it's not to judge it. It's because for me to work with somebody when they're struggling through something and base how they're going to get through that on my belief system doesn't do much good.
Right.
they have to resonate with it. It needs to be with it. And they get nervous about that because they know what I do. And I always tell them, and it's been my example for a million years, I don't care if you believe purple monkeys run the universe. If that's what you believe, then we're going to work with purple monkeys. It just has to resonate for you.
Yeah.
What works for you? What makes you a better person? What makes you move forward? What makes you more pride? What pulls you through those dark spaces? And, some people say, well, I don't believe in anything out there. I don't believe there's anything out there at all. You're dead. You're in a hole. That's it. You're done. Okay, great. That's fine. We can work with that too. Do you believe in you? You have to believe in you. And no, I don't believe in me. Yes, you do. Now I'm going to challenge that. Because if you didn't believe in you, you wouldn't have come here. There wouldn't have been any hope. Why would you bother? So you do. Now let's figure out that fear or that insecurity that's making you think you're not worthy of it. Because that's where the real problem is. Because you do believe in you or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have gone looking for something to believe that you had the possibility of change or hope. My office is really nice, but I doubt people pay just to sit in it. Coming for a reason. So it's kind of dissecting those types of things. And our body is responding to those unhappinesses. I mean, or struggles or difficulties. Our body is responding to that. And these ailments and these illnesses come up and these things happen and our body does respond to it. Now, am I saying never go to the doctor again? Because you just have to figure out, no, I'm not saying that at all. But again, another status quo thing is she passed away recently, but there was a very, very, very famous woman in spirituality. I have a beef with this love and light era of the world right now. So, and she always said, everybody who got sick, she would tell them, stop your stinking thinking. I have a big beef with that because now you're taking somebody who's struggling with something and then telling them that it's all their fault. And that they could just think it away. So then we get back into that argument again. What you say and what you feel, if they're not equal, doesn't matter. So if you walk around saying, I think, rainbows and butterflies and unicorns are special, rainbows and butterflies and unicorns are special, rainbows and butterflies and unicorns are special. And inside you're thinking, I want to shoot you all. Your body's not in balance, right?
Right.
So you need to feel it. You need to express it. And sometimes in order to be able to do that, you've got to tell the truth of the ugly. Where is my real anger? Well, I can't stand people. I hate them. I hate being around them. Okay. Now, the love and light era would say, don't say that. It's so negative. It's really not really negative. It's their truth. I'm trying to say it. Let them say it. What, are you going to shame them some more? Bet there's some shame that caused that feeling in the first place. Why are we going to shame them some more? Okay, cool. You hate everybody? Oh, not everybody, just some people. Oh, okay. What types of people do you hate? Allow that little person in there that's frustrated to express it, because you'll also, in doing that, you're breaking the mold that they created and you're dissecting it to be truth. Somebody will come into the office and they'll say, I don't bother because everybody steals. Everybody? You've never run into anybody that didn't steal? Well, no, not everybody. Oh, gosh, that'd be terrible. So how many people have you run in that steal? What percentage of people have you run in that steal? Well, there was just this person, and this is what they did. But see, in their mind, the pain was great, and the child in their unconscious mind said people steal because somebody important hurt them deeply, or somebody significantly harmed them. So then we create this illusion of protection, right? They hurt you. You got hurt by being stolen from. Now everybody steals. So we will be on guard of everybody. And when we stay in that mindset for long enough, that becomes the truth, right? We have to be on guard of everybody because that person did that. So anybody could do that. So now I have to be on guard of anybody. And when we remain in that state for a long enough period of time, that begins to mold into our truth, right? It's going to grow bigger. Then it becomes our normal to look at everybody as a thief because we put ourselves on this guard. So in doing that, I'm not making fun of them. I'm breaking that mold. Everybody? Absolutely everybody. Oh, no. Not everybody. So your kids, your spouse, your boss, everybody steals from you? Well, no, not everybody. Okay. Well, then what percentage of people? How many people steal from you? And what happens is you're breaking that mold down and getting down to the core reason that belief started to grow. Why did that begin to happen? And why do you do that? And you only do it through questioning? Because the person doesn't actually remember or realize usually why they feel that way. So they created that mold to get bigger and rounder and harder because it was safe. So again, let's take the scenario. Somebody important steals from you, or somebody steals something incredibly significant for you, whatever reason it's causing a mental emotional trauma. Okay. Mm. So then what happens right away? We become suspicious because now we're becoming suspicious of people, right? So if we remain suspicious for a significant amount of time, that becomes our new what? Normal. So then when our brain accepts that as our new normal, we then start looking at everybody. Why? Because we were suspicious. We were suspicious of everybody around us for a short period of time. And we locked into that for so long that it became what our unconscious mind decided was normal. So then it became in the conscious mind, everybody steals. No, everybody doesn't. But if you just say everybody doesn't steal, they'll go, yes, they do. Because that's what they did for survival to what happened to them. So rather than challenging them, you just ask questions. Absolutely everybody? Well, no, not everybody. Oh, okay. Phew, gosh, good. So how many people? And you just start making them realize, peeling the onion, as you said. Oh, wait, that's not true. Okay, we can get rid of that. That's not true. Here's the next. Oh, yeah, we can get rid of that too. That's not true. And then you finally kind of make it to that core of, well, one time somebody took this and it was very important to me and I had trusted them a lot. Oh, okay, let's look at that now. Let's look at that. That's your truth. But by taking all those other things away and breaking that down, they can actually leave the office the same day and have no fear of somebody stealing from them. Not that I created some kind of magic, but that we broke down the picture that was created for survival. That was how they survived. So whether it be a one-time thing, we'll just use the stealing as an example, whether it be a one-time thing that happened or whether you live in a for a period of time within an environment that is a threat, you know what I mean? Where you have to protect your things. Mm-hmm. That will create that illusion that it's everything. And it's not everything. But if it's like telling somebody, maybe somebody's not doing a job or a career that they really like, and they're really unhappy about it, but they don't feel they can do better. Okay. And it's genuinely like sad for them, or depression, or, whatever should come in with it. Depending on your relationship and your dynamic with the person. If you just walk up and say, you're so smart, you can do anything you want to do. You know what they're thinking? Whatever, you have to say that. Especially if a parent tries to say it to a child, right? Or a spouse, you know what I mean? A partner, whatever. All they're thinking, you have to say that. That's not changing it, So you're not really breaking through. It's the common thing to say. It's the polite thing to say. And genuinely, for the most part, you mean it. Mm-hmm. But they're not hearing it because they feel you're supposed to say that. You're expected to say that. So rather than challenging that unconscious part of them or just trying to input into that unconscious mind, why can't you do anything? Are you stupid? Why are you stupid? What makes you stupid? Oh, okay. And you just start rolling with the questions, and all you're doing with no judgment, no emotion is questioning that decision process, questioning what went in the mind. Because what will happen is when we remain in the state for a long period of time is our body will start to respond to it. Our body will start to respond to it. So let's use the stealing. Somebody who truly believes that everybody around them will steal from them. When you live in that state 24/7, what level of paranoia do you think you might create for yourself?
Probably quite a lot.
Right. And paranoia causes what?
Anxiety.
Right. And anxiety causes muscle tensions, muscle spasms, Your body reacting, your Charlie horses, you know what I mean? Because your body is constantly flexing when you're in that state. So if you remain in that state 24/7, then your body's responding that way. So you're constantly being triggered. So do you think that your muscles and your joints might hurt a lot? Because you're constantly reactive. Because your fight or flight mechanism, what do? You go tense, right? You might even make fists because you're in a fight or flight. I got to decide what to do. Well, if you're in that constant state all the time, how exhausting would it be to keep your muscles tensed and your fists clenched 24/7?
It'd wipe you out.
Right. You'd begin to hurt. Your muscles would hurt. They'd ache. They'd weaken even. Go ahead. I can kind of see your head moving like you have something to ask or somebody said something.
Oh, no. I'm just thinking that with the flight and fight responses, my fight is very strong. It's my reaction to almost anything that causes alert is get up and smash. Get up and smash. Go beat it down hard, fast. Don't let it get any further than you see it coming.
And I notice how you bring that up when there's only like 3 minutes left and I can't analyze it right now because I want to.
I know you do. That's why I felt okay saying that, but we got about 3.5 minutes left here this morning.
Well, we create these things, and again, when I say that, people then beat themselves up that they did on purpose. You don't really do it on purpose, but there are ways to avoid it. Like here's actually a good example, and I bet they're listening right now. But somebody really close to me was in a pretty significant car accident last week, and they're fine. I mean, they have some injuries, but blessed that they're okay. And their vehicle was totaled, but it was a shock. There was a rear end collision that they didn't see coming. So it shocked the system and the body, right?
Yeah.
And so now each time we drive through the intersection, they say, I can still see some of the glass here. I get nervous every time I come to this intersection. And so I say to them, okay, that's normal. Now pull yourself back and go, oh, but look at me. I'm sitting here and I'm fine. Look at me. I'm sitting here and I'm alive and I'm okay. I said, you have to pull yourself back there because if not, every time you go into that intersection, you're going to create PTSD.
And now we have a question from Wendy Munson, who's my mom.
Hi, Mom.
And you asked us with 2.5 minutes left, and this is a big question, which is, what about chronic fatigue for 51 years after a second pregnancy?
Was Pete by chance that second pregnancy?
No, I was the first. I caused no trauma.
That would cause me to ask some very personal questions, Wendy. So you could call me personally, or you can tell me that you want me to ask you on the air.
So maybe next week.
Right.
But
that would cause a couple very personal questions.
Since we only have 2 minutes left, why don't we go ahead and put your information up here for everyone to see, and so that you can reach out to Lisa if you'd like, and you can give her a call at, let's see, what is that, Lisa? You know your number. 262-573-7055, and you can call or text. You can also reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, lisaschangingperceptions@gmail, Lisa Changing Perceptions on Facebook, as always, 216thenet.com, and Pete will get any messages that you might have for me through there. I'm also set up now to do remote clients, so if you don't live in the McHenry area or driving distance of the McHenry area and you would still like to have a session or you'd like to talk, I am set up to do it remotely so that we can do it by phone or even by video. The Zooms and those types of things we can set up for you. So if you're not in the area, but you'd still like to have a session or you'd like to talk and find out how to get some tools to get past whatever you're struggling with, please feel free to get a hold of me and we can set that up remotely as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have as to what that process would be, kind of get a generalization of it if that makes you happy. So thank you everybody for coming in, and I will see you next week. And Wendy, you can get my phone number from Pete, or you can use the phone number obviously that I just announced, and I will be happy to ask you a couple questions that will help you break that seed open. All right. And until next week, next Sunday at 9 a.m., this has been Lisa's Changing Perceptions with your host, Lisa Efflandt.
Have a great weekend, everybody.